How's it going, everyone? It's Johnny Beard here with another episode of the Streamer Stories podcast. My guest today is the absolutely epic GeorgieeGames. Here she is. Hello!
How are you doing?
Oh, I'm great. How are you? So happy to have you here. Yay!
Thank you for having me. Yeah, I'm doing really great. I'm doing really, really good. Thank you, actually. Yeah.
Oh,
well.
excellent. Oh, I'm so chuffed you're here. Like, I'm such a. I love your streams. I love your vibes. I love everything about you. You're just amazing. No, honestly, I do. sorry. But no, I do. But yeah, do you want to introduce yourself? Let us know who you are.
Yeah, so my name is Georgie. I'm a 28-year-old British streamer. And I love a litany of things, as you're gonna find out. You know, mainly survival horror, a little bit of a survival horror fan. But yeah, I don't know. I just yeet around, really. You know, just around.
Yeet around. I mean, you do. To be fair, like I
do.
I can't put like a little thing on the screen saying this may not be true. Like it's very plausible that you do yeet around.
Yeah, I do. I genuinely do actually yeet. People just see me, they're like, "Oh, there she is, the yeeter," and I'm like, "Hey," as I'm yeeting away. You know?
The Georgie the Yeeter. Wow.
Georgie the Yeet Games. That's what they call me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Famous for it.
No, I'm just getting vibes of like on Skyrim and Oblivion, where you get to name what type of class you are. So you are the Yeeter.
I'm the Yeeter, yes. And have you ever seen that Tommy Wiseau mod with the dragon?
No, I haven't. No, but I've seen the Macho Man.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm trying to think the best way to describe it. Well, basically, if you imagine a dragon sort of flying down, sort of then just kind of like trampling on everything, just being all chaotic and loud, that's me. That is who I'd be, and that's the Yeeter character. Yeah, you know, it's a mod. It's very specific mod.
Again, can't put anything there saying this might not be true. You know, it's very possible. Very possible.
Could it could be something I'll release on one day. Who knows?
Oh man. Okay, that's now anyway. You're the Yeeter now. You weren't the Yeeter 28 years ago.
Well, I hope not.
You were molded by the Yeeter. I don't know what to go with that.
I was born to the Yeeter. Yes. Molded by it.
Oh my god, this might be one of my favourite intros I've ever done. Oh man. But no, let's go back to the beginning. So what was your first memories of playing games then? Where did it all start for you?
Well, so both of my parents are gamers, actually, and I was raised in a PlayStation household, so we had no Xbox, we had no PC, we were PlayStation babies. So my very first ever experience of actually seeing a game, let alone playing one, was I remember watching my dad play Quake on PlayStation 1, and it used to make me feel so sick.
Nice.
Just the app, because it was first person and it was like a shooter game. It used to make me feel really unwell because of like how like quick it moved and everything, and the dizziness. So I remember like trying to watch him play it, but I couldn't properly like watch him. So I ended up having to like always leave the room. And then one day he just brought in this other game, and I was like, oh, this isn't like a first person, like, oh, I don't feel as ill watching this. And it was Resident Evil.
Oh,
it was the first Resident Evil game.
Yeah.
And I remember just sitting and watching him play it, and I loved it. Like when that moment where that first zombie turns around, like I still remember that to this day. Like the chills. It's such a scary moment, and it was just so well done. And then in regards to my mum, she used to play the Final Fantasy game, so I remember watching her play Final Fantasy 7 for the first time. So on the other side so I kind of had like the horror side from my dad, and then like the fantasy side from my mum. So I sort of kind of got raised on both. But there was lots of games, and then like me and my older sister, when we got a little bit older, because I've got an older sister that's 2 and a bit years older than me. We then would sit and play games together, so our parents would like buy us like demos of games and full games that we could like sit and play together. So we kind of like were raised doing that.
Oh wow, that's amazing. I always feel just a little bit jealous when I hear people say, oh my parents were gamers, because my parents did not care at all.
Oh really?
But it's funny because again you talk about like Resident Evil and Quake, like those are not like kids games, let's be honest, you know. But my parents were like that with horror movies. Like I used to watch some absolute awful. I watched The Thing when I was a kid, you know, like and The Evil Dead, and like what the hell. But like I can imagine, like, you know, that's probably, well, I mean, even though when you look at it visually now, I suppose it doesn't compare. But when you're a kid, like Resident Evil's fucking scary. Well, scary as an adult, back in the 90s.
Well, the first one still is. Like those flipping red, what they call Crimson Head. The Crimson Heads are terrifying. Like, they are some of the scariest things in the Resident Evil games because you just can't put them down. They are just absolutely horrifying. Like, having a zombie that you kill and then it gets back up, and then it's, like, even worse, and it's got, like, claws and it's, like, chasing you, but, like, run it. Absolutely not. Yeah. That's, like, 28 days later. Like, absolutely not.
It is. Did you play the 1995 version first, or watch the 95 version, or did you play the remake first?
No, the original. So I watched my dad play the original back on the PlayStation 1, but I actually didn't play the first game until the remake. Yeah. So I played the second game, the original second game, on the PlayStation 1. So that was actually my first Resident Evil game. Was the second game on the PS1. But yeah, the first game, I still haven't finished it. No. I haven't finished it myself. No, I haven't. Nah. It's really hard.
You've got to get that on stream.
Game. I do. I've tried a couple of times. I've restarted it twice. It's me, a flipping Resident Evil streamer. It's an absolute disgrace.
Are you? Is it the tank controls or anything like that? But some people don't like those, do they?
No, it's the puzzles and like the directions. Like I just find it really difficult to navigate. I think nowadays with some games, I think we get handheld a bit too much. And I think it kind of means that when you go back and play older games, which like actually need you to figure things out and need you to really look, you've got to look at everything and really scour through for stuff. I think we get spoiled that nowadays we just get handheld and given a lot of stuff, and a lot of stuff's very like directional, and it all makes a lot more sense. So I think that going back to old games, it's a lot of fun getting to do that and getting those dynamics and getting to rediscover them, but they are like, even like the Silent Hill games, it's quite tricky to figure out where you're going sometimes, because they are older games. They're not quite as so it's a fun experience. It's interesting, but that's why I find the first one tough. Tough game, really tough.
No, we got to break that duck. We got to get it done. We gotta get it done.
I will. I'm determined.
But are we okay? Just talk about it. You know what happens in it, obviously. Anyway, just like spoilers and stuff. Are you okay with that?
Oh yeah. No. I mean, it's fine.
I remember playing the first one, then the remake, and like hearing my experience with Resident Evil 1 remake was that because I didn't have a GameCube for a while, and then got it like about a couple of years later. So I heard all the rumors about things that they changed, because again I read like they changed like 70% of the game, and I heard about Crimson Heads, but I didn't know how true it was, because everything was not available on the internet, on YouTube and all that stuff back in the day. And I also remember going through that corridor with the dogs hitting the window. And then it doesn't break, and you're like, oh, okay. Well, they've changed that then, haven't they? That was what was going through my head. And then you go through that corridor like 4, 5, 6 times. And I think the number changes each time you play it as well. So it's not like after the 4th walkthrough. Yeah. They change it. Oh, bastards. So it's, that's my experience. That's my experience. I love it.
Yeah, that window, like when they jump through that, like when they get through, it's absolutely terrifying. I mean, there's a lot of very interesting little quirks to the first game. Like, I mean, I was just watching someone play it this evening, actually, just before this, and there was a few things I completely had like forgotten were like even in the like sharks.
Yeah.
Like I don't even remember sharks. Like I'm just like, what? And then there were like bees. Yeah. I was like zombies.
Hey.
Zombies buzzing.
Keep it coming.
I was just like, a lot of nature, a lot of animals in this one that I just didn't remember. It's definitely the fun games though. I love the Resident Evil series. Like, definitely a controversial topic whenever you discuss it in regards to people's favorites and stuff. Yeah. But it's a great series though. I absolutely love it.
So Quake, Resident Evil, Final Fantasy. It was an interesting set of games to watch, really. So I mean, let's go to the Final Fantasy bit. How much Final Fantasy fan are you nowadays? Are you still into it?
I've played 7, 8, 9, 10, 10 to 12 is the one I dislike. I absolutely dislike 12. Oh, I don't like it at all. And then 13, and then 15, and I will be playing 16. So I am quite a big fan of. I've played some of the MMO. I do like it, and I see the appeal. I just don't have the time. They're such big games. But and then I played like 1, 2, and 3 on the original Game Boy Color.
Okay.
So it was like I got like given this little like set for like my birthday, and I like played those on like the original Game Boy. So that was really cool. So there's some of them I haven't played, but I think they're like remastering those and bringing those out now. So hopefully I'll get to go back and play those games again. But yeah, I haven't played the one that really gets people that surprise them is I haven't played 7 Remake.
Okay, yeah.
A lot of people wonder why, because obviously that's like the big one that everyone hypes up and a lot of people say is their favourite. But I don't know. I love some of the older games. I think there's something so magical about them, and I think they still hold up so well. Like the story is just so beautifully done, and it's not overly complicated, and they don't try to add too much to it. Like if you compare 9, for example, have you played 9?
Have I played 9? It's my favourite.
Perfect. Oh, of course it is. I can literally see Vivi in the background. Sorry, literally my head. Oh, of course. There you go, and on your arm. Perfect. Well, like if you compare like 9, for example, then to 15, the way that they wrote the story in 9 and the characters and the development and how you get to learn, like each of the characters has their own individual story, some more than others, but you get to learn so much and become so emotionally connected to each character. Whereas in 15, you don't. You barely learn a lot about half the characters. You just have like no connection to anyone outside of like the main 4, and even then some of their kind of story doesn't really make that much sense. The whole overall story of it doesn't make sense. It is a beautiful game and I enjoyed playing it, but I just don't know where Square Enix is. I think they're trying to make the games too big, and I think they're trying to make them too complicated, and I think that with 7 Remake I think they did a good job because they had such a good base story, but I think that it worries me for like the future. Like 16, I'm concerned about because it reminds me of 12 already, and I didn't like 12. And then Strangers of Paradise, I played the demo the other day, and it was absolutely appalling.
Yeah, I saw your opinion on that. Yeah, I've not played
absolutely appalling. Don't. It's like I think like if it was on sale and you wanted to buy it cheap, cool. But 60 quid for that is. Yeah, I just don't know what they're doing. It's such a shame as well, because you just look back at those classic games and they're so good. And I have so many fond memories of. I mean, I played Final Fantasy 8 and 9 on the PlayStation 1. Oh, it must be my most played games. Like, I played those games so many times. Incredible games to grow up with.
Yeah, wow, amazing.
Yeah.
So, what else did you play on the PlayStation then, or did you go from the PlayStation as well? Did you go to PlayStation 2 or?
Yeah, so PlayStation 1 was when I was quite young. So my main gaming era really started with PS2 because I got my own PS2. So me and my older sister had to share the PS1, so a lot of games we played together, and we just kind of like had the same save and we'd kind of sit together and play them. But PlayStation 2, because I got my own, that was when I really began to like develop my kind of gaming skills and all this kind of stuff. So Kingdom Hearts series was a big series that I played on PlayStation 2. Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2, especially 2. I've replayed the second game countless times. It's one of my favorite games of all time. I think it's a brilliant game, which makes the third one so disappointing for me because I waited so long for it. Even Resident Evil 4, I mean, I replayed that on stream recently, and thinking back to how many fond memories I had of it, it still holds up. It's still a very good game. It's great. I'm trying to think what else I used to play on PlayStation 2. Ooh. Final Fantasy X as well. Yep. I used to play that a lot on PlayStation. I played a lot less horror games on the PS2, I think. I think it was more RPGs. Because I played a lot of like the Shin Megami Tensei games.
Oh, right.
I don't know. The set of games, the Digital Devil Saga games, those are brilliant.
So you played those on PlayStation 2 as well?
I've still got my copies, yeah.
Wow, they're worth a lot of money, I'm sure. Yeah, because that's the thing now. Those games are only really starting to really get popular now with Persona 5 being such a massive hit. So a lot of people playing that for the first time and then going backwards. I've noticed. So because I have not. That's me. I've done that.
Yeah.
So
it's really interesting though. Like when because I've never actually played Persona 5. I haven't played that one myself. But when I have seen people stream it or watched bits of it, it's funny because you see some of the monster design and stuff. It's still the same. They've still taken a lot of the monsters and characters and things, and they've just kind of brought them across from all the way back then, and they still look incredible now. Like it hasn't actually changed that much. It still looks great. If you go back to the PlayStation 2 version of stuff, it still looks great. I mean, they released Nocturne recently as a remaster of Nocturne, and they did bits to it, but compared back to the old PlayStation 2 version, it still holds up. I mean, that game, I don't know if a lot of people know this, but it actually has Dante from Devil May Cry in it.
Oh, okay. No, I didn't.
It was a crossover that they did, so he was actually in it. So so he's even on my PlayStation 2 copy that I've got, he's actually on the cover of it because they really hyped it up that Dante from Devil May Cry was in it, because obviously Devil May Cry was a big thing on the PlayStation 2. So yeah, and obviously those were early days for the Devil May Cry games. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And I think you mentioned Silent Hill before, didn't you? So did you play those on the PlayStation 2 as well?
I played Silent Hill 3. I didn't play Silent Hill 2 until later.
Oh wow! What was that experience?
But I watched. It was great actually. I was going to say I watched it being played, so my sister played that one and I played 3. But with Silent Hill 2 getting to play it again, I played it same again. I played it recently. Playing that again as an adult, you just understand it so much more. I think that's kind of the great thing about going back and playing these games that you've seen when you were younger and stuff, is that you actually understand the themes a lot more, you understand the characters, you have more of a connection, and you can sort of relate to the characters a lot more, especially with some of their journeys and the emotions they go through. Because I think a lot of the time especially when you're younger, you see a lot of characters in games and in adult relationships, or things happen or hardships happen, and sometimes as a child you don't necessarily understand where they're going from. You just kind of see oh, that's a cool pretty thing, oh, I can shoot this, oh, I can do that. But actually as an adult you can understand them more, and the story actually becomes more meaningful and emotional. And that's where the kind of amazing thing about gaming as an adult is, and kind of going back and replaying stuff from your childhood, is because you either don't enjoy it and it was just something you enjoyed as a kid and that's where it should stay because it didn't have that depth to it, or you regain this appreciation and have that connection to it again. And that's how I kind of feel about the Silent Hill and even the Resident Evil games. When you're just playing them again as an adult, it's pretty amazing. It's awesome.
And it's crazy as well that you played Silent Hill 3 before 2 technically. I mean, very contrasting games,
Yes.
I mean, I played Silent Hill 2 in my teens, and then I didn't play Silent Hill 3 until my early 20s, so there's probably about 8 years between them, and I was thinking, oh, it's just a sequel. But I was like, oh my god, this game is so fucked up.
Yeah.
Basically.
Well, I played Silent Hill 1 when I was younger.
Yeah.
So I was quite young when I played the first Silent Hill game, and it's quite a tricky game, but it's also a very dark game. So I didn't really understand it. I didn't really understand what was going on. So it's only really when I played 3, when I was similar to Heather's age, if not a bit younger, that I really sort of understood the first game more, because it sort of translated over. But same again, I didn't really have this appreciation for it. And then it was only when I played the second game slightly later that I sort of really began to appreciate the Silent Hill series. Because for me, my favourite's the second game. I think the second game explains the story so well. I think each of the characters has such a journey they go on, and you really learn about them.
Yeah.
And I think their stories are very... I mean, all the stories in the Silent Hill series are very dark, they're very awful, and everything that each character goes through is awful. But I think in the second game, the way the characters are portrayed, it comes across so much better. Whereas in the third game, there are characters that you don't get that depth with, and you don't get that connection to. Whereas I think each of them in 2 you do, and it makes you invested when something happens to them. I mean, even just the interactions between James and Maria in the second game. who obviously reminds him of Mary, who's his wife. Like, even just those interactions are filled with so much like tension, and you just don't know what's going to happen or what's going to be said, and it's just intriguing. Like, it's awesome to see. I really enjoy this. The second is definitely my favorite. I really enjoy that game.
Yeah, it's mine as well. I mean, I love the replayability of 2. I just love the fact that you play it and you see and understand new things each time. Like, as well as just the hidden Easter egg. I mean, that it's basically all the dead bodies in the streets. They're all James anyway. It's just a crazy little thing that you don't realize the first time you're playing, or even maybe second or third time you're playing. And then once it clicks, it's like, oh yeah, that's crazy. He's everywhere, and it's like so mental. There's so many layers. There's so many layers.
Yeah, I love that too.
So from PlayStation 2, did you go PlayStation 3? Did you go online? Did you go...
No, PlayStation 3.
Yeah.
Went over to PlayStation 3, yeah. That was when the Resident Evil 5 era really kicked in. So Resident Evil 5 is actually probably the Resident Evil game I've played the most.
Okay, yeah.
To be honest, I've played that game like loads. Like, mainly because it was the first game that you could do kind of co-op.
Yeah.
So, because I like with my sisters and my friends, we would play that one. Same with 6. Do the exact same thing with 6. And then Final Fantasy 13 also kind of kicked in around that time as well, so I played that game quite a bit as well, because the thing I really liked about that game, even though I didn't really like the characters, is I really liked the summons in that game, and I liked how each character had a summon that was connected to them, and I always found that quite fascinating. Also because Alexander is one of my favourite, like, Elons. I love Alexander, he's so cool. And he doesn't get enough attention, like, he's only really highlighted properly in, like, 9. Yeah. Because he's quite a big character in 9, but apart from that, like, he's not really a highlighted Aeon, and he, it's such a missed one. I really like him too. There was another game I used to love, and it's a game that no one's really heard. Oh, actually, there's 2 actually. It's a game that no one's really heard of called Enchanted Arms. I was a big fan of that game on PlayStation 3. It's a really great game. They've never ported it or put it onto any other platform. I've still got my original copy because I really enjoyed it so much. But it's essentially a story about a guy who's in this school, and each of them are learning essentially magical powers. That's kind of what it is. And this evil kind of Ice Queen comes and basically takes possession of his best friend and tries to take over the world. And him and a group of friends from the school all have to go on this journey to try and save his friend. It's a really nice RPG game, and it's quite dark in some areas, and it's got a war in it and stuff. But it's really intriguing. And the other one that I played on there, which was my first experience playing it, was Nier.
Right. Yeah.
So I played one of the Nier games, which is the version where it was the dad and the daughter.
Okay.
So that was my first experience with the Nier games as well. I've not played the other ones, but I really enjoyed that one on PlayStation 3. It's a good game.
Right. I've never heard of the first one, the Enchanted Arms. No, never heard of that at all.
No, I don't think a lot of people have. It was I think it's quite a small game, but yeah, a lot of I really enjoyed it. And then it was PlayStation 4.
Yeah.
So really, to be honest, I just started PC gaming June.
Yeah.
From June.
That's yeah. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that at all. I mean, in terms of for streaming, I mean that's what I do all the time. I never really paid any attention to PC's gaming really until I started streaming personally. So, I don't know if you're in the same boat, but I was going to go and talk about Final Fantasy 13 actually, because I don't really have many in-depth discussions about 13. I'm in a similar boat to you. Like I'd say reluctantly, I like 12 a little bit. Like, it is probably my least favorite modern Final Fantasy game as well. And I love 13. I think it's so underrated. What I love about 13 is actually the story. The only thing I didn't like about the story was the fact that sometimes, especially on your first playthrough, you don't quite exactly know what's going on, and it relies on the data logs for you to understand what's going on. And that always frustrated me. But once I got my head around the story, it's like, God, this story is so rich. It's an incredible story, and you said you didn't like the characters. Yeah, some of them were not so good, but the story carries it for me, and it takes some pretty dark turns, I think, as well.
It does. It really does, and it really, 2 of my favorite characters in that game are Vanille and Fang. Yeah. I think those characters are very interesting, especially Fang. Yeah. I think Fang's a brilliant Final Fantasy character, but I think, unfortunately, like, they should have had a character like that lead it a bit more, and instead they had Lightning, who I think is essentially just a female version of Cloud. Like, that is essentially how she comes across, and I do like some of the moments in the game where she's a little bit more emotionally vulnerable with Hope, because he's like a younger brother figure to her and Sarah, which, you know, I do like that they have that aspect in it, but I think that, yeah, some of the characterization could have been better. I think Snow wasn't a particularly good character, but he was very forefront in the game. And I think that, personally for me, I thought that him and Sarah were a bit strange, and I wish there'd been a bit more of an emotional build-up to them two, instead of like just one random moment where they got engaged and then that was kind of it. And then I think, unfortunately, with that game, well, that game series, was that then they then did all these spin-offs that were just really weird. And I don't know if you know where it ended up, but like where they eventually ended up with that series is really strange. Like, it's very, very strange. So I just think it was almost this thing where like they knew it was a bit of a cash cow, and they just kept kind of using it to make more and more money. Yeah. And unfortunately, the quality of it then dropped because of those things. So it's a shame, you know, it's a real shame that they kind of let the story go, because I think you're right. I think the first game has a really good story, and I think even just where the first game left off was a really strong place to leave, and they could have just left it there. I think for me though, with 12 personally, I just, the story never grabbed me, the characters never grabbed me. But I think the worst thing about it was the actual fighting style. It was so difficult to navigate. And obviously, I know it's the first game that was different to the other games, because obviously the previous one to that is X2, which is still a turn-based RPG. Yeah. But with this one, it was like you could run around the field and still have this turn-based battle system. And I just don't think they quite got it right. I think they got it right in 13. I think 13 does it very well, but 12 just didn't hit it for me. And it's funny because it's one of my sister's favourites. Yeah. So she absolutely loves that game, whereas I can't, like, I just really dislike it. I don't know, it just doesn't work for me.
No, totally. No, with 12, it was, I didn't like the main character. I didn't like the main villain. I didn't care for either of them. I feel like it was just such I didn't hate him. I want to hate my villain, you know? Yeah. Whereas, again, we're talking about 13, Barthandelus. Oh, such an underrated villain. I think he was brilliant. You gotta stand his guts. But with 12 as well, it wasn't really until I played the Zodiac Age as well that I started to appreciate it a bit more. Because I played 12, didn't think a lot of it, and then didn't play it for years. Then I thought, I'll give it another go with the Zodiac Age. And because they changed like the licensing system, made it a lot more flexible, and you can skip and speed up the battle play and stuff like that, it actually makes it a lot more tolerable. I actually didn't dislike my second playthrough for it, but for me it's a case of, why didn't they do that in the first place? Why didn't they, you know, you shouldn't have to speed up a game to enjoy it, almost, you know what I mean? It's just like, you should enjoy it at normal speed. But I don't know.
Yeah. I know, it's unfortunate, but I think a lot of games, especially getting closer to when you look at games more nowadays, it's just what they do. It's unfortunate that they can't seem to replicate how games used to be enough. I don't know what it is, you know. It's I mean, some games suffer from lack of story.
My kids, I try to get them to play some of the Final Fantasy games. They're not as bothered, unfortunately. But you know, like they play some of these modern, some of the modern remasters of the old games, and they're always like constantly speeding up the gameplay and stuff like that. So I'm like, enjoy the story, No, not interested. But it's just such a, like, nowadays games and kids just want everything now. You know, speed up. I want to get to the end now. I want to know how it ends.
100%, but also I think if you think about it, nowadays a lot of games that are, if you think about a lot of games that are big games, a lot of them are games where you do it quickly. You know, it's games like where you get a win within 10-15 minutes, you know, where you just have to go on and do a couple of rounds or something. You know, that thing where we used to have, where we spent 80 hours grinding out to be able to then go and do a boss fight. Some people don't like that, and I think a lot of the days it's a lot of the current younger generation don't want to spend the time doing those things. I think a lot of people that play the older games nowadays and appreciate them are people who are slightly older, either appreciating them for the first time or who have played them and have that nostalgia. And I think that's why nowadays if they do like a remake or a remaster of a game, they do tend to speed up a bit, and they do tend to have that option available, because they know that people aren't going to spend 100 hours doing the same fights. I mean, if you think about it, like, like how much in Final Fantasy when you were younger did you just run around in an area to just get fights just so you could level up a little bit? You know, I would spend hours on it. Like people don't want to do that nowadays. It's a very different world that we're in to when we were younger in gaming.
So true. If you were stuck on a remote island and you could only bring 3 games with you, then that you can't have any more games and you can't get off the island, so you're on it forever. You can have the internet though, and you can play like DLC or whatever. What would those 3 games be, and why?
Ooh, okay, that's a tough question. Okay, well, I'd definitely take Silent Hill 2.
Yeah,
because it's one of my favorite games and I love it. I would need an online game so I can play it with other people. I mean, maybe Final Fantasy 14 because then I can finally finish it.
Finally, let's get playing. I've not played 14
as long as I had all the DLC. I mean, to be fair, I've got a friend that's been playing it recently, and it's taken her up to a year to get through all the DLC content and stuff. So if I was kind of stuck, that might kill a good chunk of time. And then also, they're still working on the game, so I might get more future content to look forward to. You know, who knows? So yeah, so I guess that'd be one of each, and then maybe something like Fortnite or something. Yeah. Because same again, then I can still have conversations with people. I can still be social. You know, Fortnite has its own thing, but also Fortnite's updating every season, so I can just be top of the season battle pass. I can do 360 headshots. Like I'm gonna be absolutely, top of it. You know, I'll be absolutely great. Yeah. You know, I'm kind of thinking depends on how long I'm gonna be on this island for.
I'm afraid you're not leaving the island. I'm sorry.
Ever? Oh, okay, yeah, then definitely those. I mean, I was going to say I would love to take a Dark Souls game, but the problem is you can only do an NG plus run to a certain point, right? And then you can't do them anymore. So maybe Elden Ring. Elden Ring could last me a while. Yeah, it could do. Yeah. Although the world, I mean, I don't know when this episode's going to come out in May, but at this moment of time, I've heard the world record's 25 minutes or something. So for speed running. So, especially if you got to an island, you were like, "Right, I'm going to pop on Elden Ring," and you finished it in 25 minutes of getting there. You'd be devastated. You'd be like, "Are you kidding me?" Exactly. Wow, that's awesome.
But no, very very interesting games and very different games as well, isn't it? Because you've got to have a bit of everything, haven't you? So
you've got to have a bit of variance. You can't just take the same one.
Yeah. So what are you playing right now? What are you playing now?
Oh, well, I mean, I think I just said last night, actually, but this will be back. So obviously, if this is in the future, then now, just finished Resident Evil 2. Yep. I've just started Silent Hill 4 The Room, which I'm playing for the first time ever.
Oh, okay. So
I've never played Silent Hill 4.
Are you playing that offline? Online?
No, online.
Oh, okay.
Online. I'm doing it on stream, so
I will try and check those out. I'll try and check those out.
Yeah. I did the first bit of it last night. It's a very interesting game, very different to the previous 3 games for sure. I don't know if it's in a way I like yet because I've only done one stream of it. I like some aspects. Like, for example, a big thing that people always said they didn't like about that game was the combat. But actually, I found the combat to be one of the easier parts of it. I was like, the combat's not actually that bad. The only thing I don't particularly like, because I'm someone that likes a lot of monster design. So in like movies that I watch and stuff, I love like when they actually practically make the monsters and they do like, for example, Guillermo del Toro films. I talk about him a lot. The actual like creature design in his films is just fascinating. I think they do an absolutely incredible job. And like the artist Junji Ito, who's a Japanese manga artist, the way that he creates his kind of monsters and stuff, and they're all very illusionary and creepy. I love that kind of body horror aspect that you kind of see in things like The Thing as well. Like Thing's one of my favorite horror films because I love that kind of body horror twistedness. I think it's I find that very scary. So for me, I think that this game is missing that. The other Silent Hill games, I think, always had very creepy monster design, kind of even compared to each other. They all had very different twisted things that still looked relatively human and stuff and were just weird. Whereas like in this game, it's like big floating monster that's like it's just like a human ghoul that you can't kill with a knife. And I'm like, I can get that in any game that I play. Like that's just a zombie but in the air. Like that's what that is. It's a Resident Evil zombie, but it's in the air and I can't kill it. Like that's just it's kind of silly to me. And then the dogs are still scary, but same again, the dogs have been something that have been across from every other Silent Hill game. So for me so far, the monster design has been very lacking. And I don't know, it must have been because it's a different team working on it. I'm not really sure. I haven't gotten much into the background and lore of it yet, but in that regard, it's a bit disappointing. But in regards to the story, I'm quite interested because I genuinely don't know a lot, and it seems like there's a serial killer and there's some stuff going on in the background, and that I'm trying to figure out, and I'm really enjoying that bit.
Yeah,
I was enjoying have a bit of a guess and like, oh, this, and I think this is this. So yeah, so we'll see. I'm gonna definitely give it a bit more of a go. But yeah.
It's
a bit hit and miss. It's not gonna be a favourite.
It's a very Marmitey game for. There are people who really like it and people who really didn't like it. I liked it. I do liked it. And you will find, again, I don't want to obviously spoil it for you if you've not played it before, but I mean, there's a certain point in the game that will happen, and then there's kind of like a before and after of that part, without saying too much. And I think, again, that part, people changed their opinion on it because some people like the first half, and then the second half, they'd really don't like it. I remember seeing one of my streamer friends play it last year for the first time. I haven't that same reaction. He went, first half was okay, but second half sucked. And I was like, oh wow, that was quite a you know, they really did not like it. But you know, I would like to try and see you play it. But again, I like the story. I like the story a lot. It's one of my favorite stories in the series. For sure.
The story. I mean, the first time of when I can't remember what her name is now. I think her name's Cynthia. I think when she dies, and then it's like the handprints that you saw outside your apartment, and then you have to go to the door and you look, and there's a new handprint, and it's like, and then she's got the numbers carved in, and it's like, oh, well, hang on a second, and then like you kind of begin to slowly piece things together. I like it.
Yeah,
I like a good mystery.
Yeah,
I'm a big fan of a mystery game.
I'll try and check your streams out for it, and definitely want to catch up on this if you like it or not. In the end, but do you play any offline games, or are you mostly playing online games now on stream and stuff?
It's funny. I mean, ever since I started streaming, I really don't play as many games offline, if I'm being perfectly honest. And if I do play games offline, it's more multiplayer games that I kind of jump on and play with my friends. I mean, I used to play a lot more Fortnite than I did. I used to be very cracked at Fortnite, but I stopped kind of playing that as much. But it's more just stuff online. I mean, at the minute I'm doing a series on my YouTube channel where I'm trying to play like more indie horror games, because I've got a lot of games that are like they're quite short games, or games that a couple of hours long, but they've been on my list for quite a long time, and I just don't know if they're ones that I'd want to stream, because I want to enjoy them for what they are. So I was like, well, I could do like a YouTube series where I basically just do some like indie horror games as like one shot videos. So I'm currently doing a series of those, and I've played a couple of very weird games so far, but they're quite interesting. But there's a few on that list that I'm really excited to get to, and so I'm now beginning to do that, which is good, because it means I'm actually putting time aside to play games that I've been wanting to play. So I am beginning to do that, but it is difficult. I mean, I'm sure, as you know yourself, like when you're trying to balance so much between, doing YouTube stuff and streaming and even podcast stuff, like when you're just trying to balance all of those things, you kind of own gaming really falls to the side. It's hard, because you kind of, luckily, we get to have time to do it when you're doing your streaming and stuff, because you can just put whatever game on you want and stream it and talk to people, and it's great. But it's difficult if you actually want to get into a game where you really want to dig your teeth into it, because you don't always have the time to do so. So it's kind of the downside to it too.
110% agreeing with you. Like I rarely play games offline now. I used to, but now I don't. Like, just as an example, so I'm playing Undertale at the moment, but on the poll that I asked people to vote on, one of the games was Octopath Traveler. I don't know if you've played that, by the way.
I've heard of it. It's an RPG, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, it's supposed to be like one of the best Square Enix RPGs of modern times. It's supposed to be absolutely brilliant, and I've been wanting to play it for years. And I was like, if it wins the vote, I'll play it on stream. If I don't, type of thing, I'll play it offline. Still haven't touched it. It's a 60+ hour game. I'm like, just to get it off the ground. I'm like, I haven't got the time. So
and it's kind of the worst thing is that, like, in a way as well, you don't, like, I mean, I don't know about you, but for me personally, I don't want to start a game that I may not come back to, because it's like, if I like start playing this game and I put like 5 to 10 hours in it, and then I can't play it for like 3 months because I've just been so busy, then it's like, well, by the time you come back to it, then like you don't know where you are with it almost, because it's been so long. So it's like, if I'm going to really dig my teeth into this game, I really want to be able to like properly sit down and like play it. And I think that's part of the reason as well for me not playing stuff offline, is because I'm worried that if I don't have the time to go back to it, then it's like I'm gonna just forget where I was and I'll have to restart it anyway. So yeah, it's a struggle.
Yeah.
It is a bit of a struggle, but
100%.
luckily, at least, you know, we still get to play them on stream, and I guess it's nice to at least have a few days a week to play whatever. You know, you can play whatever you want, can't you? That's the great thing, is that, you know, if I want to play some Fortnite on my stream, I can just do so if I want to. You know, just what you can play whatever you want. Yeah. I mean, I'm not, but like, I could if I wanted to. You know,
yeah,
it's a choice.
Exactly. So, could you choose, if possible? I don't know if you can, but could you choose what would be the worst game you've ever played? Do you know what that would be? You're going to say Strangers of Paradise now, aren't you? No.
Oh no, I mean, I'm not even going to count that as a game because it was a demo.
Oh wow. Oh, okay.
Doesn't even exist in my eyes. Ooh, I mean, I've had a few that have sprung to mind immediately, but for very different reasons. Oh, okay. But to pick one's quite hard. I'm just trying to think of a game. I mean, so for example, I think the main two that my head's kind of battling between, and this isn't because I think the games are super bad themselves, but I think it's because my expectations of what the games would be was so disappointing to what they ended up being.
Yeah.
So I think that my main one, not because of anything graphically, because I think the game was absolutely stunning, and I think they did an incredible job with the game, but Kingdom Hearts 3 is one of the most disappointing gaming experiences I've ever had. It was so underwritten. It was so underdeveloped. I think the entire plot, I got through in easily less than 10 hours. And for Kingdom Hearts games where, you know, usually you'd be looking at 30 to 40 hours of gameplay, to be able to play the core story in such a short amount of time was very disappointing. And also is the fact that then, to buff it out, they just shoved the game full of mini games. Right. So there was like mini games in every world, and then there was mini games in those mini games in every world. Right. So you just had like so many mini games. I mean, easily up to 60 plus mini games in this game. Okay. And it was just, for me, Square Enix with mini games, I don't mind a couple. I think a couple is acceptable, but I think when you're trying to put so many mini games into a game, it's because you know there's not enough content there to actually fill out your game, and I think that's a big problem, considering that people were waiting over 10 years for this, well, or longer, I think, for this game. It was such a disappointing entry. It was a beautiful game. It was absolutely stunning. It was lovely to see it all in updated graphics, and some of the worlds you went to were great, and I think what you did in those was really good. But then they released this DLC that then was, I mean, because the main game was like 60 plus quid. They then released DLC that was another 25 to 30 quid that had 13 it was just a game full of 13 boss battles and some main plot that you needed to understand the main game. Right. So then you had to pay another 30 quid. And I thought, I didn't bother. I was like, I think that's absolutely atrocious to put a load of main game stuff that you need that actually buffs out character story and makes sense, like it makes sense of the plot for one of the main characters in the series, Kairi, who is such an underdeveloped character as it is, considering she's the main female character in the game. She's very badly written and she's very badly developed. She's essentially there to be a love interest and to just be like this good, pure character that Sora always wants to kind of save and come back to. And it's such, and like then in this DLC, they actually begin to develop her as a character herself. And it's such a shame that just wasn't in the main game. And it was just, what was the point? So it's same again. It just felt like they were using this series as a bit of a cash cow, which is what Square Enix keeps doing, and it's just getting more and more disappointing. And I mean, don't get me wrong, you know, some people absolutely love that game, and I think that's absolutely fair enough. And I think where they left 3 leaves it in a really interesting place for the future. And I think that in the future, I think the next installment looks like it's going to be a lot darker. It looks like they are going to kind of develop it past where it is, hopefully make it kind of, I guess, more age appropriate for the audience they've got now, which is like people like me who are older, who, you know, don't necessarily want to maybe do a quest with Winnie the Pooh for 3 hours. You know, maybe we want something a little bit more gritty or whatever. Like, I think it's nice that it looks like they may kind of develop past that into other Square Enix worlds. So I think that's really exciting. But just because of how disappointing 3 was, it makes me a little bit... So it kind of ruined the game for me. It kind of ruined the series for me. And as someone who kind of massively grew up playing 1 and 2, and then Birth by Sleep on PlayStation 3, it just really was this kind of step down, you know? And then the other one, which I've been really looking forward to playing, and it was actually weirdly ruined by streaming it.
Oh, okay.
It ruined it by streaming it. It was Senua's Sacrifice.
Okay.
So I've been really looking forward to playing that game, and I really like psychological, like, almost, I don't want to say horror, but psychological, like, thrillers, and I find it all very interesting. And I think I thought a game where they actually used those experiences and the kind of voices and everything, I thought it was really clever, and I'd been really looking forward to it. And I thought, you know, the trailer looked good and the sequel game looks brilliant, so I was like, oh great, lovely, I'm really excited for this. And when I kind of got into it, playing that game on stream just doesn't work.
Okay.
It just, I think it really takes away from, because you need to concentrate. You just need to concentrate on what you're hearing, and when you've got chat going and you're talking, it just didn't work for me. So I ended up playing it for less than an hour, and then I haven't gone back to it since. And I just didn't enjoy it. I think that was actually one of my shortest streams, because I didn't even play another game. I just ended up stopping streaming because it just wasn't a pleasant experience. You know, it's not a game that's meant to be played that way. It's one of the most obvious games that I've like gone into being like, this game is not meant to be played. And don't get me wrong, some people have streamed it and they've had great times and they've made it work for them, but just for me and my way of streaming and my way of taking in story, it just didn't work. And so it really ruined it for me. And same again, that was, my expectations were so high and it just got ruined by me. It was my fault, but like, it got ruined by that experience. But yeah. So.
I was going to mention that actually, because again, I haven't been in your chats a lot. Like, and I genuinely mean this. Like, in terms of someone that supports and looks at chat and communicates with their audience, like, I don't know many people better at doing it than you. Genuinely, of all the streamers that I look at and look up to, like, you're so good at that. Every single person's comment is read and replied to and responded to, and taken that care it needs. You know, you're absolutely brilliant at that. And I suppose when you've got such a story-heavy game where you got to concentrate on and all that stuff, it doesn't quite work. So, you know, definitely maybe play offline, and if you get the time, you know.
That's the thing, for sure, yeah. Well, thank you for saying that. That really does mean a lot. I mean, it's to be honest, the reason why I do it is because I love it. You know, any person that comes into my chat that takes the time to sit there out of their busy lives and talk to me and say anything to me and just want to like update me on their life or just want to ask me a question or whatever, like, I'm so appreciative to every single one of those people, because it's something that I love doing. You know, I do it as a hobby. You know, I have a lot of other stuff I do outside of work, but like, I do it as a hobby because I love it and I'm passionate about it, and it's fun, and it's a lovely way to like get to socialize with people and do something I love at the same time. And the fact that people just take time out of their day to just come and talk to this weirdo is just, it's just nuts. Like, I just like, it's awesome. And so like every single, I want to hear what every single person has to say. I want to have a conversation with every single person that comes into that stream, and I want to hear about them, and I want to hear about their day and their life and what their opinions are. And like, I talk to each person because I want to know about each person, you know, and it's and like, I will take the time to do that, because I think that's one of the best things about Twitch. And I think it's sometimes when people do sometimes either ignore their chat or get overwhelmed, and you know, one of them obviously is very different to the other, but like, some people do just get overwhelmed, and I think that's fair, and it's one thing, especially if you're not used to it. Like, I mean, I've had a while to get used to it now, to be fair, but like, I think that, because I've been streaming for like over a year and a bit now, but I think some people just ignore the chat, and it's like, that's to me, I'm just like, but why? Like, that's the best bit. Is like the chat, like coming and talking to you. That's the best bit. If you have a stream that doesn't have many people in it, but you've got like one person constantly chatting in your chat, you're gonna have a great stream, because you've got someone that's there watching you, talking to you, interacting with you, and that can make all the difference in the world if you are paying attention to that person and talking to them. Because out of everyone on Twitch, they are there with you,
Mm-hmm.
and they've chosen you to sit and talk to and watch and support.
Absolutely.
You know,
Yeah.
it's an amazing thing, and I think people just forget that sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, there are thousands of streamers on Twitch.
Yeah.
You know, it's amazing.
Absolutely.
You know, so yeah.
Definitely. So what did make you think about streaming, and what were your first forays into streaming like?
Ooh, well, so I started streaming, it was the 24th of December, 2020. So I know the
Okay.
exact date.
Don't know if there's anything special about that day.
No, nothing at all. No, it was basically so I'm sure you've heard about this before, I'm sure I've mentioned it, but I used to do YouTube a couple of years ago. And obviously I've recently gone back to it, but I used to do just like reaction content. So I used to react to all sorts of things. There was tons of things that I did. Mainly music videos. Mainly, strangely enough, Spanish music videos. I used to get a lot of requests for those.
Okay.
Yeah, there's some incredible artists out there. It's
Yeah.
amazing. Some music, so incredible music. And used to do like some episodes of TV shows and things. And like movie trailers. Like it's very different. Like now is very gaming focused. But back then it was very much like movie and music focused. And so very different to the kind of vibe I'm going for now. And I really wanted to sort of break into gaming. So I kind of started making gaming videos and stuff, but I wasn't really getting anywhere with it. And I was beginning to get a bit frustrated. And so I basically ended up kind of giving up and ended up deleting my channel. Right. I just kind of decided not to continue. And it wasn't the best time for me to do it. So I just ended up kind of deleting it, which was a shame because the channel actually did quite well. But I kind of took a couple of years off. And it was only really when COVID kind of kicked in and started, and I was still working through COVID, but I essentially was just kind of at home because I lived by myself, and then I was sort of going to work and then coming home and then going to work. So my social interaction was minimal, and I really wanted to start doing YouTube again. So I was actually going to do YouTube and start making videos again. But the thing about YouTube, and it's a lot less so now, but you don't really make a community or like friends.
Mm-hmm.
It's strange. Like a lot of people, like the people that I met on YouTube while I was doing it were very much in their own, like they didn't want to be friends unless it kind of like benefited them in some way. And it wasn't a good positive environment, you know? People weren't like, oh yeah, let's hop on a game or let's hop on a call and chat. It was like, oh, well, like if I do this for you, can you do this for me? That was what it was. So I wanted to try doing gaming stuff, but I wasn't really sure where to do it. And I remember Twitch just came up one day because I think I typed in YouTube and Twitch just kind of came up for some reason. And I clicked on it and I'd heard of it, but I'd never really like been on and kind of actually been into stream. So I ended up clicking on a few and sort of having a bit of a read. And I was like, do I just try streaming? Like I've got a PlayStation, I've got a headset. Do I just give this a go? And so I did. So my first stream was on the 24th of December and I streamed Destiny 2.
Okay, yeah.
And I just did a couple of missions from Destiny 2 and my chat was dead. Had no one come in. I think I had like one or two people pop in at some point to look because I remember I had my laptop up with my like view account and I saw like it go up slightly and then that was pretty much it. And so I did that, and then I think the next stream I decided to play Oxen free.
Okay.
So Oxen free is like it's not a side scroller exactly, but it's like it's a horror game essentially. It's like a story based horror game. It's very good. If you've never played it, I'd recommend it. You might quite like it actually. And I was just kind of playing that, and then someone came in, and it's really funny. I'm actually still friends with them now.
Yeah.
So I still know them now. So Becca Chu came into the chat and she was just looking for people playing Oxen free, and she came in and she just sat and chatted with me for like 2.5 hours about the game and about stuff, and one of my earliest clips is a clip that she made, and it was I cracked my back.
Oh.
And you can literally hear it in the clip. You can hear my back go and I just go oh because I've just been sat there for so long. It was so embarrassing. And she just likes to bring it up occasionally. It's pretty funny. She's like, do you remember that clip? And I'm like, oh, yes, I do. I've still got it. I've still got that clip on my channel.
Amazing.
Especially when someone shouts you out and then it pops up and you're like, I need to delete that clip. But yeah, like, so, and then like the next stream, she came back. And then from that point, I was like, we kind of like had messaged a little bit and stuff. And I like had gone into her stream because she's a streamer too, and was watching her stuff, and she was just brilliant. And I remember from that point I was like, I'm going to try and find more streamers to talk to. So I ended up finding the stream of one of my friends, Katie, who's one of my friends now. And from that point I then found a litany of people. I remember I just went into one stream of a stream called AK Bro Montana, who's still a streamer now, and I met so many people through his stream. It was like I met this like group of people who all knew each other, that were all streamers, and I kind of just became friends with all of them. And I'm still friends with them all now. Like we're all still friends now. It's amazing that like some of the first people I met on Twitch are also like my oldest and closest friends from Twitch too. So it's great. And from there, it was just, I kept streaming on PlayStation. So I didn't show my face for a long time. And I remember that I was like nervous about like face revealing because no one knew what I looked like. So I had Discord and stuff. And I remember there was a couple of people that I like sent a picture of me to, because I was like, oh, well, like, this is what I look like, by the way. And everyone was like, cool. And I'm like, yeah. And yeah, it just kind of went from there. And it was really amazing, because that loneliness that I had felt from COVID and because everyone kind of got wrapped in their own bubbles in COVID, and I think everyone just kept to their own families and were very afraid of, like, you know, no one went out and made friends, no one went out and did anything. It was just incredible that I kind of went from having like a very like small group of people to just having people that genuinely like cared and were like, if I like didn't message them for a couple of days, if I didn't jump on and play games for a couple of days, they were like, are you okay? Like, where are you? Like, we didn't see you do this, we didn't see you do that. And that's like support network that just grew so quickly was so important to me. And I think that I needed it, you know, I needed it at that time. And I still need those people now. Like, I love those people. Like, they're like family to me. They're great. And it was you know, it's one of those things where it was amazing, you know. Totally.
No, that's fascinating. That's absolutely brilliant. No, it's real. Like, I mean, you know, there's some. I was talking about it on my stream today, actually, about the fact that some people don't understand, if they're not in the Twitch bubble, should we say, they don't understand how real this is, and that, you know, they don't see it as like, oh, well, they're not your friends. I was like, no, these people are my friends. These people exist. They care about me more than my actual real life friends sometimes do. You know, because they choose to be there no matter what. You know, and it's a really important thing. You know, so
no, I completely agree. I mean, I've met up with some of the people I'm closest to from this community. I've met up with a lot of them in person now, and it was strange because meeting with them in person wasn't awkward. It felt like I just known them for years, and it was just immediately comfortable, and it was just the same. It was just the same, like, if I'd just been sat there streaming and they'd been bantering at me in chat, it was just the same, but just like face to face. And that is such an incredible feeling. And it's like, when you have that feeling and you just know that you feel comfortable and you know that these people know you and like you and want to talk to you and be there for you, it really is a connection that's just so incredible and important. And I think that out of everything on Twitch, obviously, you know, the streaming is incredible, and the you know, getting to do all the stuff I get to do now, it's so much fun, and I absolutely love it. But my favorite part of it is the people that I've met and the connections I've made, and I wouldn't change it. You know, I wouldn't change it at all. You know, don't get me wrong, there's been like drama and stuff.
Oh,
you know, Twitch comes with its negatives.
Definitely.
Don't get me wrong, but the positives outweigh the negatives for sure.
Definitely.
You know?
Definitely. Yeah. But you mentioned, can I just say you are killing it on YouTube at the moment? Like, you are. I've been looking at like your reaction videos. Again, I didn't know that was a thing you did before. So that's just now you're doing it again now, and you're killing it. It's brilliant. So I would like to just ask, like, you already kind of touched on it, but I mean, like, what is the difference, would you say, between YouTube and Twitch in terms of like what content you think that you are producing and how important it is to differentiate the two?
That's absolutely fine. I mean, I think that when I'm on Twitch, I like to think of it as like a hangout. So essentially it's just like me, and I'm just like, right, just going to chuck on a game that we're all kind of interested in, and I'll play the game because I want to play the game, and then we'll just like have a chat and a bit of banter, or or like we'll be just chatting and we'll all just have a catch up and see how we're all doing and just have a laugh and do stupid things, and it's just like a fun, uncontrolled, chaotic like mess is kind of the way I like to describe it. And new people come in and we meet them, and people like chat to each other, and that's how like people have like made friends in my chat, and they'll like go off and like hang out and play games, and then they'll like come back and be like, oh, so did this and da, and they all have like banter with each other, and I'm just like that's great. Like I want you guys to make friends, and I want you guys to like be like going into each other's streams and supporting each other, because like I can't be there in everyone's streams, unfortunately, like as much as I want to, like I want you guys to support each other too. Whereas I think YouTube is this opportunity for me to kind of make something a bit more refined and something a bit more that I kind of have complete creative control over, and about things that I find interesting. So, for example, like I'm doing League of Legends reactions at the minute, and the reason for that is because, so I'm a big fan of the TV show Arcane. I'm also a big fan of animations and graphics and artistic, and the artistic style of Arcane was just absolutely exceptional. It's probably my favorite TV show of all time. I think it's so well done. I'm season 2. I'm going to cry the minute we get a trailer. I'm so excited. And I got recommended the animations. I'd known of them. I'd known of them before, but I kind of got recommended them. And I'd seen KDA, one of the KDA music videos before. And I mean, it was fantastic. The music is brilliant. And I just kind of, I'd been thinking about getting back into reactions, but I wanted to make sure the content was more gaming focused, because what I actually wanted to do with my YouTube channel when I first made it was I wanted to use it to put stuff from my Twitch on it. And then I was like, actually, you know what? I'm going to bring back the reaction content. So that was kind of why I decided I'm going to do the reaction content, but around gaming stuff. And I'll do the occasional movie and things that I'm interested in, but like I wanted it to be more around my gaming. So the reason why I haven't really done what I initially wanted to do with my YouTube channel is because the quality that I get on my streams sometimes isn't the best. So trying to put that quality onto YouTube basically makes for quite a blurry video, and it just doesn't look particularly great. And I kind of want to make sure any content that I put on there and produce is of a good quality. Like I don't just want to kind of shove anything on. So at least when I kind of, I mean, don't get me wrong, I know it's not the best quality. I don't have a high-tech camera. I don't have a lot of the stuff I would need to make these clear, crisp videos that I want to make. But I'll get to that point. I will get there. But at the minute, I'm just kind of making what I'm passionate about, what I like. I'm really enjoying making those videos, and I like the responses. I'm enjoying learning around the world and about the world of League of Legends, but also learning about how it links into Arcane and getting more of that lore. But I also I'm going to make sure that I'm not just kind of forgetting about the gaming side of like the games I actually want to play, which is why now I'm like starting my indie series. And that series isn't going to do as well. I'm fully aware of that. That isn't a problem, because I want to make content I'm proud of, and I want to make content I enjoy, and also just content that like if I'm sat there like watching a video of someone who's like done something and they've kind of put the heart and soul into it, and they've it's funny and they like it, they're having a good time, like I'm going to enjoy that content, and I want to make content that people can sit down and watch and enjoy and feel that way, I guess, about my content. Because I think that the thing about YouTube is that it's a way of like, I mean, I can upload a video and someone might not watch it for 3 weeks. Whereas if I stream, it's like an immediate thing.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But the effect that you can have with a YouTube video, 3 weeks from now, someone could be having an awful day, and then they watch your YouTube video and they laugh and they smile and they have a good time, and they feel this connection, like, oh, I felt like that, and I thought that too, and they put in the comments and stuff, and YouTube can really help people in a very different way to Twitch can. I think Twitch can kind of give you that immediate connection and reaction, and you can have that kind of talk with a person, but like once they're offline, that's kind of the end of that content and that interaction. Whereas with YouTube kind of gives them more of this long-term sort of ability to connect with the person too. So I kind of wanted to have both,
100%.
So
yeah. Excellent.
That makes sense.
No, it definitely does. It definitely does. If we can, because it's sort of time, my God, it's just gone. It's
Oh,
gone
it's
so
okay.
quick.
It's gone really quick.
Yeah, just can you quite quickly summarize what advice you'd give to anyone who would think about streaming? Yeah.
Yes. So personally, my opinion to anyone who wants to start streaming is, and the biggest bit, be yourself.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people just say, "Oh, just do it, just try it, whatever." But I think the important thing is just you have to be yourself. I've seen so many people that have come on stream almost with like this persona and this, or as well, like this unrealistic expectation of like, "Oh, I'm going to start streaming and I'm immediately going to do well and I'm immediately going to have loads of people in my chat and it's all going to be great." But that might not be the case.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you have to be yourself. You need to be prepared that when you first start streaming, you may not necessarily be where everyone else is. But what you need to do is not compare yourself and not hold yourself to too high an expectation. You know, it's a journey. It's not, you don't immediately step up and you're there. And I think if you do see people doing that, it's a lot of the time they may know someone. They may have connections. They may have actually been on Twitch as a moderator or a VIP in someone's stream for a long time. You know, they may have gotten a big raid. Like, you never know someone else's journey on Twitch. But if you want to do it, and if it's something you're passionate about, you've got to be prepared to put the time, put the effort into it. You know, just like I said, be yourself. People will love you for that, and there'll be people that you make connections with, and treasure those connections. Don't be worried about reaching out to someone. Don't be worried about making a connection to someone. It is a good thing if you meet someone that, you know, wants to play a couple of games. Take the chance to play games. I mean, the reason why I know a lot of you, as like you as well, is because I saw Charlie streaming one day. And I was, you know, his vibe at the time was very horror, very heavy metal. I was a little bit nervous because I'm like me. And and I just kind of hopped in and said hi and stuff. And I kept going back a couple of times. Then he invited me to play a game. And I was super nervous. I was like, oh, I don't know if I should. But I just went, you know what? I'm going to do it. I did it. And it was fantastic. And, you know, I wouldn't have the podcast I have now if I hadn't done it, because I wouldn't know Patch and Cage anywhere near as well as do. I wouldn't be sat here with you if I hadn't done that, if I hadn't taken that chance. And you've sometimes just got to look past your own nerves and just give something a go. Yeah. I think the people's worst enemies themselves.
Yeah.
You know,
100%.
Just give it a try. And it's not always for everyone.
No.
But at least you've tried.
Definitely. That's wonderful. That's wonderful.
I was going to say, is that good advice?
Of course it is. Absolutely.
I feel like I went on like 10 different tangents there.
No. Don't apologize.
I feel like I'm so bad at giving advice.
No, that was wonderful. You are wonderful. And I'm so happy that you definitely took that chance. Because I remember going into playing crowd game with Charlie and hearing this person's voice and thought, who's that? And then, because it was your voice that I remember the most about that stream.
Really?
And there's like, I got to check this girl out. She seems awesome. And then it's like, I was, oh wow, she's awesome. That's it. And I've loved our friendship since. So thank you so much for being here. That was an amazing chat. One more time, do you want to give yourself a plug and tell us where we can find you?
Yeah, so you guys can find me at GeorgieeGames. It's got multiple E's in it. I was going to say 2 E's. It doesn't. It's got multiple E's. GeorgieeGames on YouTube, Twitch, and also on Hover as well. So if you want to check me out on all those, it's the exact same on all of them. And yeah, got loads of content. So come and say hi sometime. I'd love to get to talk to you and get to know you.
Brilliant.
So, yeah. Thank you so much for having me on. This has been an absolute pleasure. And you were an incredible streamer yourself. I was going to say, you absolutely... Your streams are so good, and I was going to say this podcast is fantastic, and everything that you're doing is just it's brilliant.
Thank you. No, you're not allowed to say. I'm supposed. No, I say the nice things. You're not allowed to say the nice things.
Oh, I dare you.
Thank you so much. Right, that's it then. So thanks so much, everyone. Have a good time.
Lovely.
Take care. Bye.